Good afternoon. I'll just check mine a second time.
Very good. Sounds great. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
And this is a courtesy announcement that this meeting is now broadcast live on our web portal and YouTube. Good afternoon, Michael.
Good afternoon.
Loud and clear. Thanks so much. And anyone who's just joined and would like to check their audio, please go ahead.
Hi, this is Chris, checking audio.
Sounds great. Thanks, Chris.
Hi, this is Maribel.
Hello, good afternoon. Sounds great. Thank you.
Hi, this is Kati.
Hi, Kati. That was very faint. Is there any way you can improve your sound quality?
How is that? Is this better?
It's a little better, yes. Good afternoon, Sarah and Roger.
Hi, good afternoon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Thanks, Roger. That worked.
And I have to switch over to my headset. Just want to make sure that's still audible.
Yep, there's like a tiny bit of static, but it's perfectly serviceable.
Great. I also have a PowerPoint. Should I try to share?
Yeah,
now?
go ahead and test that out real quick. So we are seeing the presenter view. I think if you go to display settings, duplicate. That looks great. Thank you. I believe we're not quite ready. Anyone who's just joined and would like to check their microphone, please go ahead.
Hi, Jess, it's Cindy. I'm going to be right back.
Sure thing.
Jess, can you hear me?
I sure can. Thanks very much.
Hey, Supervisor Sharp, you ready?
I am ready.
Recording in progress.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. This is Supervisor Otterly. I'm the chair of the FGOC committee, FGOC standing for the Finance Government Operations Committee, calling to order for the October 14, 2021 meeting. I would also like to, of course, welcome along my Vice Chair Supervisor, Cindy Chavez, today. I'll also ask other members of the committee to introduce themselves, starting with our County Chief Executive. Go ahead, Jeff. Doug Smith.
Hi, this is Jeff Smith. I'm County Executive.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Miguel Marquez, County's Chief Operating Officer.
Good afternoon.
Hello,
this is Steve
is
Mitra.
Greg Iturio.
Sorry. Steve Mitra,
Sorry,
Assistant
Steve.
County Counsel.
And this is Greg Iturio, County Budget Director.
Okay, I'll go ahead and say with both supervisors present, I think we now have a quorum, and this takes us to the first item of the agenda, which is public comments. This item is reserved for persons desiring to address the committee on any matter not on this agenda today. Members of the public who wish to address the committee on any item not listed on the agenda should request to speak at this time. Individuals will be called to speak in turn, and speakers are limited to the following. Actually, we'll go and do that. We'll figure out how many people we have, and I'll determine that time. The law does not permit committee action or extended discussions on any items that's not on the agenda, except under special circumstances. So if the committee action is requested, the committee may place matter on the future agenda. Statements that require a response may be referred to staff for reply in writing. And clerk, would you please let me know how many speakers we have for public comment today?
There are currently no requests to speak.
Well, that makes it easy. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next item, which is 3, which is the approval of the consent calendar and changes to the committee's agenda. So items removed from the consent calendar will be considered at the end of the regular agenda for discussion. The committee may also add items on the regular agenda to the consent calendar. There's a note to the public that there is no separate discussion of any consent calendar items, and the recommended actions are voted on in one motion. If an item is approved on the consent vote, the specific action recommended by staff will be adopted. Members of the public who wish to address the committee on the consent calendar items should comment under this item. And each speaker is limited to 2 minutes total. And so to get started, Vice Chair Chavez, I do have the following recommendations to the consent agenda. And please let me know if you would approve the following changes. First, I would like to hear the items number 4, 5, and 6 to be heard concurrently and allow for public comment at the end of the item number 6. Item number 4 relates to an update on the staffing study of the Sheriff's Office. Item number 5 relates to OCLAM's review of the Sheriff's Office staffing issues. And item number 6 relates to Sheriff's Office staffing and recruitment incentive options. I also like to request that we defer item number 7 until the November meeting. And I would like to also add item number 14 onto the consent calendar. Item 14 relates to the fiscal year 21 annual debt and swap report by the finance agency. And Vice Chair Chavez, do you have any other additional changes you would like to make to the agenda or consent calendar?
Yes. Hold on one moment. Yes, just a couple of additions to what you're recommending. I appreciate very much the deferral of item 7. We were missing some of the charts, and I really wanted to be able to walk through those. And Dr. Smith, if possible, when we do the meeting with the team who helped us, kind of lay them out, just so we can get the discussion done in one fell swoop. Item 8 is the report out from the Los Altos Hills Fire Department. And on that one, if you're comfortable with it, I would move it to consent with just one addition, and that is that have this come back to us in 6 months on just one issue, and that is the making sure that they submit a copy of all their vendor procurement records in a secure account for a period of 12 months. I think that's the only outstanding issue. And I think, in fact, if we could get I would be comfortable with this coming back to us even later, like in 9 months, if we can get an off-agenda report of that action being taken. And then for item 10, this is the master plan for Valley Medical Center. And I'm certain you're going to get to hear this at the hospital. I just wanted to say how excited I am to see this master plan. I know that we're going to need to continue to act while planning is happening, and I appreciate that's why it looks so iterative. Dr. Smith, I know we have many projects underway, but I'm really excited about this and want us to continue to to purchase facilities like the skilled nursing facilities, hospice centers, and others that will ensure access. And I know that, one thing you're always mindful of, Dr. Smith, is how many emergency rooms we have, how many beds are available to our community. So recognizing that, what I'd like to recommend is that we get a 9-month check-in on the plan, because I know there are lots of moving parts to it.
That would be great. We do have, from a staff's perspective, a number of concerns about the surrounding medical environment. In addition to this master plan, obviously the master plan will only involve county facilities, but we are concerned about surrounding facilities and the ability for patients to access healthcare in our region. I think the pandemic showed us a number of facts, but one of the facts that was really dramatic is that people with lesser means and fewer opportunities had a really hard time getting medical care. And that means that our system has some real problems with it that need to be addressed in the future. When I say our system, I mean, the entire system, geographic county system.
And Dr. Smith, if it's comfortable with you, I think the addition of what the market looks like might be valuable to have come back to FGOC in December. Both, just in general, so that if there's anything relative to skilled nursing facilities or anything else that there were opportunity needs to be addressed, that we can at least have a verbal report from you and your team on the purchasing of facilities in general.
Okay, we'll do that.
Thank you. And then I think on item 14, Supervisor Lee, I'm comfortable with that being on consent. The only recommendation I would like to make to staff through the chair is that the audit of the debt program, when we have our new chief financial officer that this report come back once that new chief financial officer has been here about 90 days. Because I think one of the challenges looking at that without our chief financial officer is just, I mean, there's a benefit to it, which is why I think putting it on a consent is fine. But I think being able to have a discussion about that when the management audit is also complete, there's a management audit that's going on. So in any case, we could align the management audit with the report out from our new chief financial officer. And I would just request that the county debt portfolio be part of that budget package. I mean, the legislative package when it comes back to the board. And then I wanted to ask, did you put item 15 on consent also?
Not yet.
I would recommend that. I love seeing this, and I just want to say to our staff, thank you for fighting the good fight, listing these out. I feel like this should get a little ribbon, and this should get sent to Supervisor Wasserman, as I know he's always like, why are we paying for what the state's paying for? But I do just want to encourage our staff to continue to write these letters and make sure that we're putting the state on notice for where we're coming in on their behalf. But I would be comfortable putting on consent and thanking the staff and just saying to the staff, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Okay. So let me reiterate. So for the item 7, we're deferring. And then for the ones going to consent included item number 8, number 10, number 14, and number 15. Am I correct, Vice Chair Chavez?
Yeah, also I would add item 11 as well. That's the fellowship program. I thought the report was helpful and clear.
Okay. All right. So again, we put in consent will be 8, 10, 11, 14, and 15 with all the comments being made there. And I just want to make a brief comment also on item number 10. Number 10 is relating to the master plan for the Santa Clara Valley Medical Center. First, I want to thank staff for the report. And I'm aware that the OSH, our Office of Supported Housing, is being included in the master plan discussions. And I just want to take a moment to emphasize the importance of exploring different options, such as like outside the box options, to help incorporate supportive housing with existing hospitals and clinics. As being one of our most pressing issues in our county, I want to ensure that OSH contributes to this master plan and explores opportunities for more collaborations between our healthcare and housing services to improve the life of our residents. And I look forward to receiving further updates regarding this master plan and hope that the administration will include information on the opportunities to incorporate the support housing in this future updates. And that's all I have for 10. And without further comments, do I have a motion?
So moved.
And I'll go ahead and second that and ready for a vote.
Vice Chairperson Charles. Oh, we do not have any requests to speak right now.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Okay, no public would like to speak, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Let's go take the vote. Thank you.
And Vice Chairperson Chavez.
Yes.
And Chairperson Lee.
Yes, as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. And that's the case. We are moving to item number 4. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to move to received items number 4, number 5, and number 6 together. 4 is receiving report from the Office of County Executive relating a draft staffing study of the Office of the Sheriff. Let's see, who would be presenting that from staff? Oh, hi, Martha.
Martha's going to do it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Ms. Rapinski, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. We have a brief PowerPoint for item number 4. My name is Martha Lipinski, Deputy County Executive. With me today is Melanie Jimenez Perez from the Office of the County Executive. So while the screen is being shared, the packet on the agenda contains the draft staffing study of the corrections and law enforcement of the Sheriff's Office at the request of Supervisor Lee, as well as the request from Supervisor Chavez, where the related board referrals on this topic are attached in the packet as well. Moving on to the components of the report, I'll briefly cover the factors that have diminished the usefulness of the draft study, which are detailed in the written report, and as well as talk about the next steps. For the next slide, please. For the the factors impacting the report, the projected staffing need was based on the jail population in December of 2019, now obsolete because the jail population has many, many fewer incarcerated individuals and is expected to stay low due to the county's existing release and diversion initiatives. As noted on page 1110 of the draft study, CGL had difficulty obtaining reliable data from the Office of the Sheriff, but the Sheriff's Office has indicated there's a willingness to participate in an open exchange of information. So a reinvestigation now would prove a more accurate staffing picture. The draft jail study indicates a need to decrease the number of posts and to change the types of posts within the jail system. Current divergent efforts and the inaccurate inmate population projections needed to be reassessed in the new staffing study. And the decommissioning of parts of Elmwood further reduces the need for posts. So very briefly, going over the next slide, is the number of positions recommended in the CGL draft study, as well as the vacancies as of August 23rd. As the report states, the draft study focuses a lot of attention on the high use of overtime and recommends new positions in order to reduce overtime. However, many vacant positions are currently available. There is a table in the report showing where the 226 current vacancies are. And we want to note that there is an opportunity for lateral hiring from other agencies as well. With that, I'll turn it over to Melanie Jimenez Perez to talk about the timeline for the new request for proposals on the staffing study.
Thank you, Martha. Good afternoon. And I wanted to share with you quickly that we were able to release the RFI on September the 3rd. And the RFI was an important step for us because it allowed us the opportunity to gauge the market, to look at what are the strategies in a post-COVID world where we have a lot of diversion initiatives in place to reduce our population. And we are reviewing those 3 submissions that we received, and we're going to use those to guide the next RFP process and also the input that we received today. So while this timeline may adjust, it is really focused on that March 25th date where we're hoping to get staffing projections to inform the upcoming budget process to help the board with decisions on staffing.
And with that, we'll take questions, but it looks like the county executive has his hand up.
I just wanted to give a little bit more information to the committee. We've gone through a lot of changes with regard to custody, having to do with changing rules, changing bail processes, changing laws, and probably most significantly the pandemic, which has changed a lot of the predictions for inmate population in the future. And there's clearly a difference of opinion about what that inmate population will be, which is why we think we need an outside consultant to give us outside look. However, there are a few things that I think we all agree on, and we'll hear later on from the sheriff. But I would say number one is that we have too many vacant funded positions. We need to get bodies into those positions. And I think we should really seriously consider whatever effort we can do to get lateral transfers, because as the sheriff, I think, will mention later on, even though we continue with academies, the likelihood that we'll be able to fill all the vacancies with academy graduates is virtually zero, because we just can't get that many people through the process. So we clearly need some more actual humans in those positions, and that means we're going to have to look at incentives for lateral transfers. And with that, I think we're just open for questions after you get done with the next 2 items.
Okay. I actually do have a bit of a update questions to start with regarding the background of CGL report and that process. This predates me being on the board. So Dr. Smith, if you could help me. understand. So CGL started this process, and that's why we've recently been able to get released with a kind of a half done report. On that one specifically, how much was it budgeted for, and how much has been paid on that I guess half report at this point?
Well, let me try to give you a better sense of the process. The board asked for us to do a staffing study. We commissioned CGL through that process. However, just about the same time that we commissioned CGL, lots of other things were going on that were changing the environment of the custody issues, like no money bail and other issues that were changing within the jail. So what you have before you is a draft from CGL, because we asked them not to finish it due to the fact that the presumption factors had changed, the total census had changed. So we felt we needed to get a updated new study. So the original study was less useful than it could have been. And the cost was what, 225,000, I think, Martha.
That's correct.
And that's been all fully paid for, or almost fully paid for?
That's fully paid for, Supervisor.
Paid for, right? Okay.
I'm sorry. Let me correct. I'm not sure if I know what you mean by fully paid for. That's the amount we expended. The total contract amount was 281,000.
Okay. Total contract was 281K, but since we asked them to only present the draft and not the full report, we gave them 225. Is that summarize what happened?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Has there any thought of asking them to then, since the problem is, of course, the presumption has changed, then there's no point of, using information if the presumption is wrong. I guess the question is, since they have already started to work, changing these presumptions, do you think it will be possible for them to go back with some of these presumption change to finish up a report?
Well, at this point, we're suggesting an RFP, which CGL could certainly respond to. But since the report that you have in front of you makes presumptions that are no longer true and doesn't take into account some things that have changed, we think that really needs sort of a ground up review. It's not a matter of just buffing up the draft. But CGL can certainly respond to the new RFP.
So the reason the report did not get finalized is not the fault of CGL in any sense, right? It's just the fact that the presumptions has changed due to the circumstances, like you mentioned, like no money bail or COVID, and with less inmates. Therefore, that's why this was stopped in mid report, correct?
Right. Nobody, CGL didn't do anything wrong.
Okay.
I would say probably the main reason why we're at this situation has to do with the fact that the start of the project was at a very different time in criminal justice history. It's really a matter of just timing of when you're doing the study.
Okay. And Supervisor Chavez, do you have any question on this one, on item number 4?
Well, I think that there are 2 issues. I think well, let me ask Sheriff Smith to weigh in on this too, because as we go out and do a new RFP or an RFQ, I'm not sure which the staff, I would just want you to have the flexibility to choose a partner. I want you to have more flexibility. And the reason is that I do think that there would be a lot of benefit in getting feedback from the department as well, in part because I think that the point that Dr. Smith just raised about how different the dynamics are is just one I want to focus on for a moment. But I think I'm also interested in what the team looks like that approaches this. I'm not sure it's a single entity, and that may have actually been part of our challenge, is that, you know, a lot of the folks that have been in this business a long time aren't watching necessarily what's happening here in this county or in California per se. But you don't look like Sheriff Smith, but you do look like the undersheriff. Your title says Sheriff Smith, so.
Thank you, Supervisor Chavez, Supervisor Lee, and Dr. Smith. Sheriff is not here today, so we're filling in here with Assistant Sheriff Rodriguez, Assistant Sheriff Sepulveda, Lieutenant Asbin, and Deputy Blancarde, who will be presenting on item number 6. Just real briefly regarding the staffing study. Just first of all, I want to say that we're appreciative of the County Exec's Office for the aggressive timeline if a new RFP were to be issued. I will say, you know, the sheriff's desire is, in an ideal world, because of the timeliness that we need additional staffing, that if it were possible in an ideal world, we would be able to maybe go back to CGL, who's already done so much work, to ask them to take a fresh look with the current circumstances that Dr. Smith had talked about, which are different than they were when it was first commissioned. You know, but obviously that would be a decision of the board. And there is just one other thing that's probably important for the committee to consider, is that the additions of staff that was recommended by CGL were made before the pandemic hit, and all of the staffing cuts were made in fiscal year 2020 to 2021. So we lost a large number of staff after that. So those would have to be factored in when really looking at what CGL's the current draft recommendations are. The numbers are actually higher because of the staff that we lost after it was done.
I think the other question just that I would want to know from you all is, you know, are there emerging trends? And if so, are there some consultants that are helping to better define and think about what the staffing needs are? And I'm not, this isn't relative to CGL in general. It's just that I think there's a very specific group of people that seem to respond to these sorts of RFPs and RFQs. And I noticed that actually even when we started building the jail, that it's a really small pool. And so, and I see Dr. Smith, your hand up. I'm really interested in understanding, who do we need to find to help us? Dr. Smith, did you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I don't want to step on the undersheriff's time, but I think we all agree that it's one of the very critical factors in doing a staffing study is the physical layout and the structure of the jail system. That determines to a great extent the posting pattern, and then the posting pattern plus the relief factor pretty much determine how many codes you need. There's a lot of other intricacies involved, but those are sort of the big picture issues. And when we commissioned this study, initially we weren't planning on not having a new jail as a double negative. Now that wasn't factored into the report, but the board obviously has decided to take a different kind of look at our carceral facilities. So that will have a big impact upon what the staffing ultimately will need to be in a jail system if we, continue with that. Plus the reference to Elmwood is important, because if you look at the draft study carefully, really where the suggested deficit is in Elmwood mostly. And that's presuming a larger population on a low acuity campus. And the board has made it pretty clear that they want to modify that campus by eliminating the low acuity barracks and by possibly looking at a mental health facility and by lowering the census of low acuity inmates. So all of those factors will be very important for an outside specialist to look at. And, that's why we think we need to get the outside expertise. And you're exactly correct. We need to look for a team that will have a much more finessed approach to a plan. There are consultants out there that just sort of do a cookie cutter approach. CGL was good, but we asked them to do the study at sort of the wrong time in the maturity of the system. So we're recommending the outside evaluation for that reason. And I also want to point out that we'll definitely be doing this in close communication with the sheriff's office. There's a lot of moving parts, and we clearly understand that they're having turnover of staff that is a real problem, both at the line staff level and at the administrative level. And we want to figure out a best way to support them. So I've been scheduled weekly to meet with the sheriff to make sure that we're all on the same page of the playbook.
One thing, thank you. I think that's really helpful. And the only other thing I would just want to mention is that I really do think we might be looking for a team approach. And the one thing I would just want to say to Dr. Smith and to Under Sheriff Bender and his team is that I like the idea too of the review of the results we get to go through a cross section of our organization, which I think includes the sheriff's office, obviously Dr. Smith, your team. I also want to recommend probation and the reentry center leadership. And the reason for that is that a lot of the programming work we're looking at doing and/or are doing are helping people have that 90-day window when they're coming out, to make sure that they're engaging with the reentry center, or if people are getting out right away, how are we dealing with pharmaceuticals? So I think we just need to be thinking more broadly about what services that we're offering and what we expect from people. So I'm going to request that you consider an RFQ instead of an RFP, again, so it gives you flexibility, and that you encourage as many people to apply, because you might want one thing from one group and something else from another, and that there be a cross-sectoral team from the organization that is engaged in the research component with the consultants. That includes I think it should include Dr. Smith, Dr. Day as an example, and like I said, somebody from the reentry center as well.
Certainly, thank you.
Thanks for that.
Regarding the earlier CGL studies, it covers not only the custodial side, they also cover the enforcement side for the deputy sheriffs as well, correct, Dr. Smith?
Yes, it does. And, that part of the report is much more straightforward. And, since it doesn't involve the changing of the physical location of the jail, it's much more clear. And I don't know that we need to repeat that, but leave that up to the sheriff, obviously.
Yeah, I'm going to ask the Under Sheriff Bender, do you have share the same opinion? Because it looks like if that report is good for that time and not much change, we could at least use that from the CGL, and then that way maybe we could use the new one, just focusing on the jail changes and narrow the scope a bit more and hopefully even more accurate. What do you think?
Yes, thank you for that, Supervisor and Dr. Smith. I think the sheriff's office is good with the enforcement study, as is if the board decided to only move forward with the custody side for the new RFP.
Okay, thank you. All right. All right, good. So that's helpful. Alrighty. Okay, so that's item number 4. And I know number 5 is very much related as well, and that would be the report actually from Oakland on this CGL study as well. Somebody in Oakland here who is going to speak on this today? Oh, good. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Supervisor Lee.
Go
Supervisor
ahead. Yes.
Chair Lee and Vice Chair Chavez, good to see both of you. So initially, I believe the referral from the chair was to take a look at the CGL draft report and offer any recommendations. And then based on further discussions we had with your office, Supervisor Lee, the suggestion was to wait to see how the discussion today and the submissions today turned out. And so we are prepared to provide our impressions, our opinions, depending on the course that this takes. If there's going to be a new RFQ, we'd be happy to identify some issues that I think have already been talked about, but based on our experience in our year plus on site, we have some additional thoughts that we could offer. So we are prepared to do that at the committee's will.
Okay, very good. Vice Chair Chavez, you have any questions for Mr. Janako?
Raise hand.
I see the sheriff.
Oh, yes, go ahead, Sheriff, please.
Sorry, thank you, Supervisor. I just wanted to circle back to the last item regarding the enforcement study, and I just want to make it clear. I think what the best thing is for us to continue to work with the county executive while we analyze that before we really give a definitive whether it's good as is or not.
Okay, that's fine too. Yeah, I just want to double check, and I think that's probably better that you work directly with Dr. Smith's staff to make sure that it truly has covered everything is needed. If this really is, then there's no point in spending money on studying something second time. But yeah, so I'll be okay with that. Thank you.
You know, the only other thing I wanted to ask Mr. Janako is, and maybe Supervisor Lee, this is a question for you more so. I'm interested in what Mr. Janako and what you saw that you wanted to highlight. Maybe you could just do that briefly for us now, and then Supervisor Lee, you know, what outcome you hoped to gain from that as well.
Sure, Vice Chair. Just to verbally talk about some of the bullet points, as again, some of these issues have already been discussed, but certainly what that inmate population ends up looking like has a direct impact on what the staffing will be. There's no two ways around that. And so I think a related and then also, of course, as Dr. Smith has pointed out, what facilities are going to be around in 5 to 10 years will also impact the staffing needs for the sheriff's office. And there are other metrics as well that all interrelate to each other. So I think that this is a complicated project in the sense that what was true 3 years ago is not true today. And in addition, you know, the move since the George Floyd murder that had already existed pre-incident to decarceral when possible is certainly a competing, an important consideration in determining how many folks are needed to provide the security within the jails.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, and just answering your question, Vice Chair Chavez. Yes, so I look at the report in certain ways. I look at the enforcement as one where it's practically completed, you know, up to the undersheriff, and also how Dr. Smith would be able to resolve to see if that report, and then really focus any type of relooking of the study with the only in the carceral side. I think that is where the change is going to be. One thing I do want to mention is, given the fact that we were likely to have a very significant vote on the construction, a potential construction of a mental health facilities, or we're going to knock down Main Jail North to have a new facility, a new site for another jail. Those type of discussions certainly would happen later, and I don't believe that would be certainly not going to be covered by CGL, because I think CGL's report talks about assuming that a new jail will be built in addition to Main Jail North. So I think those are some of the assumptions, which of course is no longer true. So I do think that there are some adjustment that clearly will be needed. Again, of course, what it looks like 5 and 10 years, nobody knows what we'll have at that point, and who knows if we might have to do another study later on when the construction starts and when that's the case. But I would say what to me is really crucial is that we really need to have accurate numbers in order to make sure that we are staffing it correctly today, right, for the next year or two, more urgently, because clearly there's some deltas that we need to clean up. So it's good that we have some data from CGL, but since those conditions change, we certainly want to make sure that we are meeting the consent, the decree from the court of what we need to do to make sure that the staffing is appropriate. So I think your RFQ idea seems to be one that would work, just to make sure that we do have a team approach to come up with right numbers.
Great, thank you. That's helpful, Otto.
Thank you. All right, and then let me move over to item number 6. Of course, is now receiving from report from the Office of Sheriff regarding staffing. And this one, we also talked about the recruitment incentive options of new hires and lateral hires, as well as some retention of existing staff. And I guess it would be under Sheriff Bender, you and your staff will be presenting this, correct?
Correct.
Yes, please proceed.
Can you see the screen?
Not yet.
Did you guys hit share screen?
Go back.
Are you guys seeing our screen now?
Not yet, sorry.
No.
Up there on the left. Yeah.
Aha, something's happening. Oh, yay.
Yeah, we got a screen.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Deputy Blancart. I'm one of the lead investigators in our backgrounds and recruitment unit. The hiring and retention of police personnel is one of the most significant challenges facing law enforcement agencies today. The supply and demand for qualified officers are changing in a time of anti-police sentiment, expanding law enforcement responsibilities, increasing attrition, and work-life balance issues. During fiscal year 2020-2021, the county made staffing reductions to cope with the impact of COVID-19 and the uncertainties of the economy. The county adopted strategies to mitigate the negative impact on the budget, including a countywide hiring freeze, which halted our recruitment efforts for law enforcement and correctional deputies. Moreover, the national spotlight on tragic use of force incidents created distrust in the community, in the police, and the legitimacy of law enforcement, creating a bigger void in the hiring and retention of our workforce. The Sheriff's Office is experiencing difficulties related to hiring and the retention of deputy sheriffs for both law enforcement and custody positions. The Sheriff's Office is requesting funding to implement several strategies and incentives to retain current staff and to hire deputy sheriff cadets, laterals, and correctional deputy sheriff cadets and lateral positions. Other agencies have implemented similar strategies and incentive programs to increase the number of qualified applicants with a successful outcome. Next slide, please. The Sheriff's Office is requesting the county fund and implement the following incentives for recruitment of lateral and new hires and for staff retention, which include lateral pay incentives, vacation advancement programs, longevity pay program, officer wellness program, child care stipend program, premium pay for specialized and technical assignments, teams, and units, hiring and referral programs. Next slide, please. On September 16th, we presented to the committee a lateral incentive program that would allow the Sheriff's Office to recruit and hire up to 50 lateral deputy sheriff applicants through July 1st, 2023. Currently, the Sheriff's Office is anticipating an escalating number of vacancies for deputy sheriff and correctional deputy positions. These positions are essential for providing effective and responsive public safety services to the various communities we serve and the correctional facilities in our county. The hiring of a lateral candidate has proven to be a cost-effective strategy. The cost of hiring and training a deputy sheriff recruit is approximately $137,000, whereas the cost to hire a deputy sheriff lateral transfer is approximately $26,000. This is because lateral hires have already completed the academy and are eligible for an abbreviated field training program. Moreover, a lateral hire for both custody and law enforcement bureaus can begin providing services within 10 weeks from the time of hire, while a deputy recruit is not prepared for independent service until a minimum of 12 months after hire. The Recruitment Referral Pay Program is designed to encourage county employees to serve as marketing agents for the Sheriff's Office. Any county employee who refers a qualified candidate to the office of the sheriff who is hired would receive referral incentive pay. The referral incentive pay is structured to be paid after specific milestones. The Sheriff's Office is also recommending an incentive pay to rehire former deputies that lateral to other agencies. The Vacation Advancement Program includes the advancement of 40 hours of vacation upon completing the field training program. This is approximately 10 weeks after a lateral begins employment with the Sheriff's Office. Next page. Law enforcement is a challenging profession. The profession's extremely emotional and physical demands, irregular schedules, and regular exposure to vicarious trauma affect officers' relations with their friends, families, and the public they serve. In the last couple of years, we have seen an increase in law enforcement officers leaving the profession due to stress, some before they reach retirement age. Supporting our deputies' mental health is essential for the well-being of their partners, the community, and the agency. Unaddressed stress can lead to destructive behaviors and poor decision-making, including excessive force or even suicide. Studies show that suicide rates are higher among law enforcement officers and others who work in public safety than among adults in other major occupations. Officers' well-being programs may include resources that include education, law enforcement-focused retreats, physical fitness, medical and psychological services, and peer-based programs. The Sheriff's Office values our employees and seeks ways to improve their well-being. To continue our efforts in hiring and retention, we are seeking funding to offer training classes, workshops on officer wellness and resiliency, access to wellness tools and resources, funds to improve our fitness facility, and a yearly stipend for employees to enroll in a licensed fitness center or studio of their choice. The Sheriff's Office is requesting $250,000 in one-time funding to update the gym equipment and $750,000 to provide a yearly stipend of $400 for each employee to enroll in a licensed fitness center or studio, and funds to host or send Sheriff's Office staff to training workshops for officer wellness and resiliency. For many years, the Sheriff's Office has advocated for access to affordable and accessible childcare options such as on-site childcare. However, recognizing that this may not be a very feasible solution due to licensing, operating hours, and staff requirements, the Sheriff's Office is requesting the county fund a childcare stipend program that would allow for a yearly stipend to employees to pay for childcare after or before school care. Next slide, please. One of the many incentives other local law enforcement agencies provide to attract lateral hires is premium pay for specialized and or technical assignments, teams, and units. Currently, we offer little to no incentives for specialized units, assignments, and teams. The Sheriff's Office recommends offering an increase of 5% premium pay for specialized units and technical assignments, units, and teams. Our deputies assume secondary job responsibilities within the Sheriff's Office to better serve the Santa Clara County community. Many of these positions require a specialized skill set, physical ability, are extremely demanding and are highly stressful. Many deputies attend classes on their own to receive additional skill sets and certifications. Some of these positions include our underwater search unit, our specialized weapons and tactics teams, Sheriff's Traffic Accident Reconstruction Team, Psychiatric Emergency Response Team, PERF, and several other units, assignments, and teams. Many competing agencies, such as Santa Clara Police Department, offer their officers a premium pay incentive in specialized units. Next slide, please. The law enforcement profession as a whole is facing the serious issue with the retention of tenured staff. The current climate towards law enforcement and recent legislative changes have negatively impacted the profession for those entertaining potential career choices. Staff morale and satisfaction are at an all-time low. In the last 2 years, the Sheriff's Office has seen deputies with an average of 10 years in the profession leaving our office. Some of the reasons staff provided include current feelings toward law enforcement, lack of support from the community and government leaders, high cost of living, and a lack of incentives, including wellness programs and premium pay. Many law enforcement agencies offer longevity pay as an incentive to retain tenured staff. The program would pay a certain percentage of staff's base pay based on their years of service. Next slide, please. The Sheriff's Office employees have families and have the burden of identifying affordable childcare options to meet their demanding and complex work schedules. According to an article in the Mercury News dated February 3rd, 2019, the average cost for childcare in Santa Clara County is an estimated $19,000 per year for non-school aged children. The national average is $9,000. The slide before you is an example of the Sheriff's Office proposed childcare stipend program. The stipend amount is based on the assumption that the average family pays an estimated $20,000 per year for childcare. The county would pay 15% of the yearly cost. For example, the program can work as follows. Childcare yearly stipend for a licensed state of California childcare facility or childcare center for non-school age children for qualifying staff members, $3,000 per year. About 45% of the Sheriff's Office sworn staff would likely utilize a monthly childcare stipend if offered. The estimated yearly cost would be about $2 million. Childcare yearly stipend for school-age children under the age of 12 or before or after school care to an accredited state of California approved school district or childcare center for qualifying staff is approximately $1,500 per year. About 65% of the Sheriff's Office sworn staff have children 12 years of age or younger. The estimated cost would be $1,500,000. Next slide, please. Sheriff's Office continues to enhance recruitment strategies. Our mission is to attract, cultivate, and retain a diverse and high-performing county law enforcement workforce that reflects and serves the community. The COVID-19 health pandemic negatively impacted the Sheriff's Office recruitment efforts. The Sheriff's Office and the county executive are working collaboratively to find strategies to build our recruitment incentives programs. Our focus will be to hire more lateral transfers to quickly fill openings and bring valuable experience and diversity to our community. The Sheriff's Office is looking forward to the board's support of these recruitment strategies and incentives. The successful implementation of these strategies and incentives will assist our office in hiring the next generation of sheriff deputies and correctional deputies who are diverse, representative of their communities, and have the mindset to uphold our laws with fairness and impartiality. Next slide, please. Thank you. This concludes our presentation. We have a panel available to answer your questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Vice Chair Chavez, do you have any questions on this report?
Yeah, I do. I'm interested in, if you had to prioritize like the top 3, what would those be?
I'm sorry. Thank you, Supervisor Chavez. This is Assistant Sheriff Salia Rodriguez. That's a wonderful question. I think that with what we're trying to do and hiring, number one, we want to retain our current staffing. We want to make sure that we keep our tenured deputies. So we need to make sure that we are balancing the hiring of new deputies and then laterals as well as the retention. So if we were going to pick the top 3, I would say the lateral hiring pay would be number one, because I think that is the one way that we can really get new laterals coming in. We are able to do minimal training and then put them out as fast as possible. So lateral hiring pay incentive for 50 recruits. The second item I would say would be the officer wellness program, because I think that is one of the priorities for our current staff, and they are really interested in programs that help their wellness. And the third one I would say would probably be the premium pay for specialized and technical assignments. Again, that is part of our retention, because again, when we do our exit interviews, a lot of our seasoned deputies are leaving the area for additional incentives to stay in their respective agencies. Like, for example, the premium pay if they work a specialized unit or a specialized assignment, or if they're part of a specialized team.
On that one, what I would be interested in better understanding is whether or not there was that we also wanted to just look at longevity pay and not necessarily just specialty pay. And the reason I say that is that, we want to keep good folks across the agency, across the organization. And while we do want to incent people to get that extra training, I think that I just think it would be interesting to better understand the opportunities relative to longevity pay kind of broadly. And but I do understand the points that you're raising and appreciate the research you did. Thank you.
And I agree with you, Supervisor Chavez. Thank you so much. That is, when you put me on the spot like that, it's like,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just was curious because as I was thinking about this myself, just based on conversations that I've had both with your staff and with other agency staff, it just got me thinking a little bit about, like, we're in a very unique situation. And Dr. Smith, I see your hand up. I'll defer to you with after I finish this thought. Is that it does seem to me that the battle we're fighting a little bit is more at the end of that last 5 years, keeping people the last 5 and in order for us to catch up, but Dr. Smith?
Well, I was just going to say, from an administration perspective, we think all of these approaches need to be looked into carefully. And so we're looking forward to working with the Sheriff's Office to put together a package that makes sense, that we can actually do. And the other partner that we always have to remember that is at the table are the 2 unions that are involved. We obviously have to negotiate with them and meet and confer structure and get their priority choices and ideas too. And I know that Sheriff's Office has already been talking informally to the union. So I just want to make sure we all remember that we got to do that part of the process too.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Smith. I did not mean to skip ahead. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's an excellent point. Thank you. Sorry, Dahlia.
Thank you, Vice Chair Chavez. Yes, thank you, Dahlia. And I have basically a very similar question as Supervisor Chavez regarding the need. So your greatest need, clearly, I think we all have learned from reading the report and noting the numbers that we have reviewed, is that the current line staff is really hurting on numbers. And, the fastest way to replenish that need is not hiring new recruits, because it'll take such a long time for the pipeline to develop. Therefore, hiring lateral by far is the most quickest way to get folks on board, right? So that they could be out on the streets and be working immediately. And on the proposal, there was some dollar amount being proposed. I think I saw $35K as one of the numbers. I recall last meeting when we had the discussion, I think, was it Santa Cruz that was offering like $25K type of a bonus? And just have you explain, how you came up the numbers and how would you think would be the 50 recruits that you're aiming at? Go ahead.
Thank you, Supervisor Otterly, for the question. We came up with that specific number because of the area that where we, Santa Clara County is probably one of the highest. The highest cost of living is super high, and also housing is super high. And so, for us to be able to attract other law enforcement laterals to come to our county, we have to be able to provide an incentive that is going to help them potentially either move here or maybe potentially purchase a home here. And as you know, the medium house pricing in Santa Clara County is about $800,000, and that is for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. So we're trying to really incentivize potential laterals with $35,000, and it would be a very simple transaction where as soon as they are done with their field training program, then they qualify for the incentive, versus other agencies where they do it in phases.
And I'll just add real quick that it might sound like sticker shock, but when we hire a lateral, it saves us of putting them through a 6-month academy where the county's paying for their salary. So it's actually a net savings to the county if we can attract lateral hires with that hiring bonus. And then we do wait until the end of their field training, which is about 3 months, to make sure they pass before they're eligible to actually get it, so that we know we have a viable candidate.
Yeah, thank you. Under Sheriff Bender, as you mentioned, the cost of sending a new recruit through the academy, I think the number I saw was close to $160,000, right? So when you talk about $35,000, that's certainly significantly less than that cost of sending somebody through the training. That's what you're talking about, right?
Right. So the cost of sending someone, a cadet, through the academy is about $136,000.
$136, okay.
Versus $26,000, which is when we have someone, a lateral, that all we're basically paying for is a abbreviated version of their field training program.
Right, exactly. It's just 26. So that's a 110K difference right there. And then, so in that sense, 35K is much cheaper than 110K, right? Plus the fact that they will be immediately deployed, well, they'd be deployed much sooner than going through the whole long program. So those are both good. Now, the other question I have is, do you have any type, since they're giving them, I guess in this case, it would be a lump sum payment, right? So what ensures them that they won't leave in 3 months or 6 months or whatnot after they get the bonus?
Well, in the past, we've had conversations with county council to see, what potentially we can do to make sure that we keep them as long as possible. I mean, I know previously, I want to say about 15 years ago, we had an agreement where it was you have to be here for 3 years in order, for you to be able to be here for 3 years. And if you leave before that time is up, then there was a certain percentage that you had to pay back.
Right.
I'll just mention that that contract model for employment was used in the 90s quite a bit in law enforcement circles. The courts, from what I understand, the courts eventually threw it out. They looked at it more like you can't force someone to work for you. It was like indentured servitude. So
right.
There's really no guarantees, but our belief is that if we can lure someone here and get them trained up, they're going to see the culture that we have is really good with regards to how our deputies treat people in the streets, and we think it's going to be somewhere they're going to want to stay. Right. And with the other incentives that we've talked about adding as well.
I think it's important to make sure that we, like we said, we balance the incentive to bring in new laterals and new hires with retention, and some of the incentives like longevity pay and officer wellness, or even some of the other programs that we talked about, like childcare stipend. All those things are incentives to keep staff with our office for longer periods of time.
Right, exactly. So I think that's part of the reason why phases were being used by the other jurisdiction, because that certainly is legal, right? If you leave before then, you don't qualify for the part. So instead of giving a lump sum, so again, these are things that we could discuss later on in terms of an actual implementation of operational, and also for the budgeting purposes for us. But in the meantime, certainly the offering of a incentive is clearly a no-brainer for us to do it, this would be something that would be the quickest way to get people on board, right? I think that we can all agree on. And then the other thing you also mentioned is Officer Wellness Program. You talk about something about the like, for example, type of like a gym membership incentive, or having the facility being refurbished. There's some new equipment, and that's about, I think I saw the report, about a couple $100,000, right, to put in there for people to do workouts and whatnot. Correct?
That is correct. So the improvements would be about 200,000, and then 750,000 would be for employees to receive like a yearly stipend of about $400 per year, so they can go to a studio of their own choosing. And then the remainder of the amount would be utilized to provide additional training classes, workshops, etc., on how to deal with stress, resiliency, how to basically work in a stress-free work balance, work-life balance, those types of classes that are extremely important for our staff, considering the amount of stress that they go through every day.
Correct.
There is although there's initial investment into the officer wellness, there is a return when it comes to, I believe there's studies out there that show less workers' comp injury cases when the employees have a good wellness program where they're working out, and not only the physical aspect, but the mental aspect of law enforcement. There's a mental component that we want to make sure we take care of our deputies there as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, thank you. And then the third question you mentioned was the third area was the premium pay for special assignments of certain specialties. During the exit interviews, you've been seeing those. Do you see a certain specialties that we are hurting the most right this moment, that we might need to focus that, maybe even having incentive pay for that specialty of recruitment for laterals?
We offer some incentives because it's part of their part of the MOU with the unions, but not all the teams and special units or assignments receive that type of incentive. That usually is negotiated with the union. What we are advocating for is to provide those incentives for all specialized units, teams, and assignments, because we do have a lot of specialty assignments within the sheriff's office that they are very specialized. However, because those items are not negotiated with the union, they are very much heavily, they train a lot, they're certified, but there's no incentive whatsoever to do those positions. Some of those positions are like, for example, our psychiatric emergency response team. Those team members are they are trained. They work with therapists or behavioral health therapists, but they don't receive any type of incentive aside from the fact that they love what they do. Same thing with some of our crime scene investigators, some of our emergency response team members in custody. So there's a lot of different, even some of our professional staff that are, again, very trained in what they do. For example, our records personnel, they're extremely trained in what they do, but they don't receive incentive pay for any of those positions.
Okay. Now, in terms of our shorthandedness in the specialty areas, is there any specific ones that you can identify that we are, at this point, need hiring the most at this point? If you could share with the public.
I don't have a list in front of me right now, sir. I wish.
Yeah, but if you have it yet, no. If you don't, maybe you could provide us with maybe in the future office agenda. I just want to kind of know so that I'm trying to use that as part of reason for the lateral hiring. Whether we might need special incentive, for example, besides the bonuses we talked about, the 35K, where it would hire exactly where the need is. My point is that I want to make sure we're filling the gap, the highest need first. So that's the reason why I'm asking that question, trying to provide that potentially for future discussions on the sheriff. You could look into that. I appreciate it. Okay.
No problem.
All right. And I'll go ahead, if no more further question from Vice Chair Chavez, I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing on all item 4, 5, and 6. And
we do have a request to speak. 2 minutes, is that correct?
2 minutes, yes, correct. Thank you.
All right. The next speaker is Urbish Kumar Mehta. I'm unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You have 2 minutes to speak, and the timer will start when you begin speaking.
Thank you very much to the Board of Supervisor, Chair, Chairperson, Vice Chairperson, as well as Sheriff's Office and the county staff, and as well as the county CEO, Jeff Smith. I want to specifically emphasize the standard that is being maintained for the part of County of Sheriff's Recruitment Office, and as well as to understand that as a part of increasing the package, providing the child care, as well as the vacation packages and the policy that is being implemented, it is imperative to understand that it also comes with the responsibility to hire an individual, which also bears and understand the similarity of having such package be provided part of a government and as well as the county of sheriff's department's work. It has been noted that increasing not just in a public sector, but as well as in a private sector, increasing the package, providing the benefits, as well as making sure about that the employees being retained, providing the laterals, does increase the percentage of the recruitment within the agencies. However, it's equally important to understand that when this package is being provided, the similar level of the expertise, similar level of individual, similar level of standardized work ethics, and as well as the individual or the professional be hired for the similar type of a job. In a public sector, what is even more important is that the ethics as well as the duty to serve being given the priority over the packages, as well as to ensure that when the services are being provided, that is being rendered to that diversified person, and also the international package be provided for the.
And that concludes our request to speak.
Thank you. I go ahead and close the public hearing. If there's no further questions from my vice chair, I'm ready for motion. And
I would move approval of the receipt of these reports with two requests. One is that the sheriff's staff work closely with the county exec staff to return to the board, and I imagine this would be in closed session to discuss the pay options that were reviewed. And second, that the staff move forward using an RFQ, because I think it gives them more flexibility and to pick and choose whatever partners they like, but to do that with a cross-sectoral advisory team. And that would be my motion.
okay. Thank you. And I'll go and second it. And I do have actually quite a bit to amend on it and see if how many of these you might be willing to accept, Vice Chair Chavez. I certainly completely agree with you regarding the proposed RFQ, but given the importance of this issue and how high visibility this is, I would actually ask to see if we could actually send it to the board on the November 16th meeting to determine the next steps on this RFQ. But I think what you suggested is perfectly fine. Having that cross-sectoral look on it, I think makes sense. Number one, is that something you would be agreeable?
Yeah, for sure, Otto.
Okay,
I think Otto, could you just say the implications of that real quick?
Yeah, it's just the fact that given how visible this issue is right now and how important it really is to our community, and I really do think that it would be good for the bigger general public to hear about what's going on regarding what we're doing on this this study, given how important it really is, and that we are really trying to show that the request is being sent back because look, the numbers are much smaller, right? Based on and I think community needs to see that. That's why the staff study is going to be based on more current numbers. So I think that could be helpful for the community to know what's going on. Then the other areas I would like to propose, I'm just going to read those through, is to for the administration and the ESA to review and assess the Sheriff's Office proposed staffing and recruitment incentive options for the new and lateral correctional and enforcement deputy hires, and to also provide the board with a report with recommendations which options to adopt based on some of the industry-based best practices. And also for the administration ESA to review the Sheriff's Office existing 12/80 shift structure and to provide a board with a report with information and recommendations that address the shift structure relief factor and over-reliance on the overtime usage. For item number 6, having moved to the November 16th, for the administration to provide the board with a report with information on the county's public safety and justice system IT plans, including approved funding within TSS capital projects and the corresponding timeline for installing the records management systems, RMS, and the computer-aided dispatch system and other approved IT systems based on their level of priority. And for the administration and the Sheriff's Office to work in partnership with the Santa Clara County Superior Court to provide a board with a detailed report on the court security staffing needs, associated costs and funding, and an anticipated phased-in timeline for reopening the 8 courthouses and the 70+ courtroom departments in our county. And that's those are the addition to the motion.
So on that front, Supervisor Lee, are you asking I'm not sure I understand who that's direction to. Is that direction to the sheriffs, or is that
actually most of them will be going to the administration? Actually, for Dr. Smith and staff, there's a part where would require the administration to work with Undersheriff Bender's office and Sheriff Smith's office to come up with these number of needs for the court security, for example.
So I would just say that that is done in partnership, I think, also with the courts. And if I'm correct, and Sheriff Bender, maybe you can answer this question, that's a contract that the Sheriff's Office has directly with the courts. Is that accurate?
Yes, thank you, Supervisor. Yeah, the contract is, well, there's the county is involved with it, but the court system does have a contract with the Sheriff's Office to provide security.
So Supervisor Lee, is the intent to just make sure they're working on it, or is the intent to see how this fits into the overall staffing, or?
Correct. I think it's about the overall staffing, and obviously if the courts is happy with it, that's fine. But the concern also is to making sure that we have enough deputies to help reopening, because obviously with the reopening courthouses, we certainly don't want to make sure that there's enough folks out there to support that operation. Of course, if it comes back from Undersheriff Bender to say, hey, we've got enough people, when they open the courthouses, we're all good to go, then that's music to our ears.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it was being considered. And I guess maybe the addition to that would be to do an updated analysis of what the needs are. I think that's what you mean.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Right. Yes, exactly. You
yeah. I didn't understand, because you're right that could be a change too, right? If things aren't open. All right. Thank you.
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I will include that.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay. And if there's no further discussion, I'll go ahead and let's see. Ask to take a vote.
Vice Chairperson Chavez.
Yes.
And Chairperson Lee.
Yes, as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And let me thank our administration, the Deputy Executive Lipinski on the detailed report. This has been a lot of work, and I do look forward to getting this, hopefully this RFQ once the board has looked at it, that we could get that process started. And the timing, of course, is very tight because we have to get it through the budget. But I really do think that that would be really crucial and helpful due to the fact that with the lesser inmates we have in our system, that's what we should focus on. And I do hope Under Sheriff Binder and staff, Mr. Lipinski, to work together to figure out whether the CGL report is good enough for the enforcement side. If it is, then obviously we don't have to waste resources to look into that anymore. Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, and moving forward, we have finished 4, 5, and 6. And then number 7, we said we've held back. 8 is on consent. And I guess we now skip to item number 9, which is receiving the monthly report from the Office of County Exec and the Facilities Fleet and Department regarding the status of Fairground Master Planning process. And do we have Glenn Williams to help present today?
Thank you, Chairperson Lee. Good afternoon to you and to Vice Chairperson Chavez. Yes, the committee has asked for a monthly report to come back to them on the status of discussions and negotiations at the county fairgrounds for master planning and development. And so this is in response to that. I'm Glenn Williams, Asset Development Manager for the county in the County Executive's Office. And I have been engaged in negotiation meetings along with a representative from County Council with the 2 entities that we have been assigned by the Board of Supervisors to begin negotiations with, which opened in June of this year. And just for the benefit of the audience, these 2 proposals consist of one from the San Jose Earthquakes, who have requested the opportunity to lease 25 acres of the fairgrounds land for the purpose of creating 8 soccer fields, as well as a support building on the 25 acres. And from American Cricket Enterprises, who have requested to lease 12 acres of the fairgrounds land in order to construct a professional quality cricket stadium. Let me post a slide for you.
And also, I just want to acknowledge that Dr. Smith has his hand raised.
I defer to Dr. Smith if he wishes to comment.
Yeah, I maybe shortcut this a little bit. The committee and the board have asked us to negotiate, as Glenn mentioned. I just met yesterday with representatives from the earthquakes and other financial interests involved in the project. They're coming back next week with modified proposals. So I think it was a good meeting, and we're making progress, and we will be coming back to the board in closed session when the time is right. But I think we've got some options for the board to consider.
That's really appreciated. And Supervisor Lee, may I ask a couple questions?
Absolutely, please proceed.
And thank you, Glenn, and thanks, Abe, for being here too. Supervisor Dr. Smith, could you also do the same with American Cricket as well?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Thank you. And I think that the reason I'm interested in that is the timeliness of these 2 proposals. I think is very important in terms of finance strategies for offsite improvements, which is part of the reason I'm interested in that. And also, I'm worried that if we don't move more quickly, that we're going to leave the window of opportunity to actually have something built out in time for the World Cricket Federation games. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the title, but I feel like that's one other one that we need to land. So that'd be great if you could do that. And then the last thing I wanted to just check in on as it relates to the fairgrounds overall is I'm very interested in better understanding the other opportunities relative to the indoor sports theater. I'm not sure what to call it. It's a big box where people can do lots of stuff inside. So I'm not sure the name of it.
I think that we probably are not prepared today to give you a very thorough discussion of that, but there is interest in the community in citing a indoor athletic equipment usage structure.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but yeah, big box. That's all I can think of. Yeah.
But I don't know that we can give you a whole lot of detail today. We'll have to come back on that.
Thank you. And then the last thing I wanted to raise is that I am very interested in better understanding the role that our county parks department can play on this site. And my question for you, Dr. Smith, is that do I need to bring a referral in that order to the full board so that we can start having discussions with parks? I just can't remember where we were in process with parks.
Yeah, I don't think we need an order. I think you and I just need to sit down and understand better so that I can understand better your intention. And then we decide where we go from there.
Perfect. All right. That's great. Good. That answers all my questions, Supervisor Lee. Thank you.
Can I make sure of one part of the question?
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to learn how to play cricket, do I?
No, no, I understand that's very difficult. So no, I will. I just need you to know how to build the pitch, right? Pitch.
I have no idea. It makes no sense to me.
Otto plays cricket.
Me?
I'm just kidding.
Well, for the record, now that you mention it, Ms. Supervisor Chavez, I was invited to throw the first pitch at one of the games in Morgan Hill about a month and a half ago. And for the next hour and a half, I went on YouTube watching how to throw cricket ball. And it turned out I actually was able to do a relatively presentable pitch.
That's great. Oh, that's good news.
You have to bounce the ball on the ground, or else it's considered too easy to hit, and it's a bad pitch. So I was able to bounce it and hit, like, not bounce more than once, just bounce once and then get to the player. So,
well, then that's a sport I might be able to play. That's awesome. Yes. Thank you. And thanks for your, both Abe and Glenn for all your work on this. And thanks, Dr. Smith, for kicking it up a notch. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. No, I really don't have much to add, but just want to thank both Abe and Glenn for your hard work on getting these contracts moving. When I spoke with the folks when I was doing the first pitch, they are mentioning that they have been looking at different sites for the cricket field, including one in Sunnyvale. The Bayland Park is another one. But they certainly do think that the fairgrounds, the one that has moved ahead the most, and really looking forward to getting that contract approved. So I'm supportive of all. I think it would be great for our community to have these facilities available, especially that's a kind of joint use between cricket and baseball as well, right? For that area. So again, thank you so much for your good work in the report. I'm looking forward for some additional good news to come. And that's all I have. Let me go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Just one item for you. The folks at American Cricket Enterprises, of course, are continuing their discussions with the city relative to Baylands because they would like to have a feeder facility.
I see.
Not in competition with what they want at the fairgrounds, but a smaller site that they could use for a youth league.
Exactly, right. And the other thing is to, I mean, it's one of those sports that I've learned from this is that cricket is the game that can last a long time, for many hours, and that's certainly one challenge, of course, in terms of field availability. In any case, I'll go and open.
Otto, can I just add one other thing, and that is that I would also like to make sure that both Glenn and Abe do, if you haven't done it already, if together you can do a sit down with VTA about the planning processes that they're using to make some regional investments in transportation, and I do not want the fairgrounds left out. There's a set of activities happening that are really focused on Monterey Corridor, but Monterey Corridor connected to what San Jose State is doing and what the Sharks are doing, and then what we're doing is something that I want to make sure is in the planning process for VTA, so we don't miss opportunities as they get federal and state money for infrastructure improvements.
Vice Chair, we do have a follow-up meeting with VTA scheduled for November 19th, in which we will be addressing the public transportation with them.
And if that also can be reported out here as just a segment of what we're talking about, I think that would be great. Because I think the county, Dr. Smith, I think that's another partner for us as it relates to improvements that will maintain circulation in that area as well. So good, great, thank you.
Totally agree.
And I have no further questions. I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Do we have anybody who'd like to speak?
There are no requests to speak.
All right, then I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And Vice Chair Chavez, you have a motion?
I would move move that we receive the report and thank Dr. Smith for the follow-up and the staff for the follow-up that will be coming back to us.
Great, I'll second that. And let's take a vote.
Vice Chairperson Chavez.
Yes.
And Chairperson Lee.
Yes, as well.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see, I think we have 10 and 11 on consent. So now I believe we have 12, which is received report from the Recruitment Department of the Office of Sustainability relating to proposed board policy on the sustainable purchasing policy and forwarding to the Board of Supervisors for consideration. And today, do we have Jasneet Sharma from our office to present this? Jasneet, are you there?
Good afternoon, Supervisor Lee.
Good
I just wanted to
afternoon.
make sure, are you seeing my screen share?
Yes, I can see you very well. Thank you.
And you can see the presentation?
Yes, we see both.
Perfect. And I found the last conversation very interesting. As someone who grew up in a country where cricket is almost a religion, I can promise you it's not that difficult to play.
That's wonderful.
Again, thank you so much. I'm Jasneet Sharma. I'm the director for the Office of Sustainability with the county. And I'll be presenting on the proposed sustainable purchasing policy and the recommended approach to implement this policy as well. Before I move further, I actually want to begin by recognizing the effort of staff from both the Procurement Department, Office of Sustainability, along with Facilities and Fleet, and the Office of Countywide Contracting Management, who have really been instrumental in bringing this effort to fruition and before this committee as well today. Also, this initiative has and will continue to be a partnership between Procurement Department and the Office of Sustainability. So I do want to recognize that Jean Clark, the county's Chief Procurement Officer, and my partner in this effort, he is online as well and available to provide additional information or answer any questions. So sustainable purchasing has numerous benefits. What we all buy in our everyday lives has an impact on virtually everything around us and in our communities. The impact is magnified for organizations like the County of Santa Clara, where we can focus on a number of larger goods and services to fulfill the county's commitment to sustainability, achieve cost optimization, and also support our local businesses. As one of the larger consumers in Santa Clara County of products and services, the county, through the proposed policy, has the opportunity to make procurement decisions that can create positive change. This policy presents the goals and the vision and outlines the implementation mechanism, which will occur through the development of administrative guidelines. The Office of Sustainability, Procurement Department, and as I mentioned, in partnership with Office of Countywide Contracting Management and Facilities and Fleet, will form a sustainable purchasing working group and shall oversee the implementation of the sustainable purchasing policy. Based on research and also talking with other agencies that are leaders in sustainable purchasing, it is recommended that the county establish a sustainable purchasing program to implement this policy. A successful program has many elements to it, the most important being that it requires adequate staffing and focus in order to capture the desired outcomes and efficiencies. When various departments undertake sustainable purchasing independently, it can result in duplication of effort and also missed opportunities. So effective programs must identify and prioritize purchasing categories to focus on that result in the highest impact and benefits. Establish clear guidelines through procurement specification and procedures for various purchasing categories ranging from office supplies, food procurement and services, transportation, building materials, etc. Also, we need to include ongoing education and an outreach component so staff both across the county's impacted departments are clear on what is required from them. This approach also helps ensure our vendors are aligned and up to date. And lastly, tracking and reporting is essential to measure the effectiveness of this program, demonstrate overall impact, and identify areas for improvement. We're also going to have to ensure that tracking effectiveness is critical in meeting many of the state requirements as well. I wanted to share one procurement initiative as an example to elaborate on the type of systems the county will have to implement to meet state requirements. The state recently passed Senate Bill 1383, which is the California's short-lived climate pollutant reduction strategy. SB 1383 has specific procurement-related requirements that local governments would need to meet in the next 2 years, which is related to the procurement of organic waste products and recycled paper products as well. Currently, purchase of these items occur through both the procurement department and also through individual departments. So moving forward, we will require dedicated staff to set up a process to implement these requirements across all the departments and then collect documentation to share back with Cal Recycle on how the county is meeting these state requirements. In closing, we ask the committee to accept this report and recommend the policy and requested staff position to implement this program to the board. As I mentioned, this program will be implemented in partnership with the procurement department, and the program manager will partner and coordinate with procurement's strategic sourcing officer, optimize the sourcing and contracting process in alignment with the sustainable purchasing program and the goals that we outlined. Again, thank you so much for your time, and both Jean and I are available to answer any questions.
Thanks, Jasneet. I'll just say I'm here and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jasneet, for the good report, and thank you, Jean, for being there to help answer our questions. Vice Chair Chavez, do you have any questions on this one?
I do. Just a couple of questions. First of all, I just want to say to Jean and Jasneet that one of the reasons I so appreciate hearing from both of you and seeing what you put forward is the deep enthusiasm and professionalism you both bring, which is just, it's wonderful. I have a question as it relates to innovation, and here's my so when it comes to being able to do something that is a little out of the ordinary, and an example of that is that if we wanted to start to buy or look for a new sort of pesticide for fruit flies, as an example. And we have folks come to us and say, hey, we've got this new product, but that's not within our current standards for fighting this particular problem. How does this policy allow for staff to do maybe an RFQ or do a request for information and really change the way we approach innovative opportunities or ideas?
Jean, you want to go for this first? You're the procurement guru more than me.
I sure can. I'm happy to, and I think it's an excellent question because it's really at the heart of how sustainability needs to advance and how procurement can help that. And I would offer this. It really is a three-prong approach with procurement, the departments, and the owners, the supply base itself. Because if you can get that triangle going, you really need all three. The department is so important, and I think we've got really positive departments here who would support that effort. There are good ideas that come forward. One of the criteria would be, are there any regulatory or environmental things that are in favor of it or are against it? So that has to be pulsed. But it can come together. So if we get these ideas, what we do, we get the right people together and we discuss them. I do think that the market itself is still in a very much a growing state, because honestly, for a lot of the suppliers out there, there has to be dollars for this, there has to be profit for them. So it's not mature yet in some areas, but I'm really encouraged about the bills that are coming forward. That's such an advantage for us, and we're going to use that to our advantage. So we will encourage suppliers out there with that triangle of the department, procurement, obviously Jasneet's department, and it can happen. So let's see what kind of wins we can get out of even these initial three areas that Jasneet identified, because the state has been on record to support that.
I think that what I'm really interested in understanding is if there is a tool that is being used somewhere, or if we can create a tool that helps us learn about emerging technologies in real time before we put big contracts out or little contracts. Because I think the point, Jean, that I completely appreciate, and I really appreciate the state's actions on these particular bills, because really what we're doing is we're supporting, girding, and driving the sustainability market, and that's exactly how cities, counties, and states should leverage their commonwealth. Like, I think this is absolutely the right direction. However, I think that the point you raise about what are the regulatory challenges requires us in advance to look out for what are the new opportunities and what are we willing to take, where are we willing to take risk, and then how do we flag that in fact we're doing something that is new or innovative. And that's what I mean by risk. One thing I wondered about is that I serve as the chair of something called the Technology Implementation Office, and it's a subset of the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. And essentially what it does is it marries a small amount of public dollars to the iBank in the state to try to support new and emerging technologies that are coming out of our region, from a small business perspective. But how those get to scale is once there's a proof of concept, it has to get into the procurement realm, and the public sector is an opportunity for that. So that's I would be really interested as you think about this for a few months, as you're getting started, what's the mechanism we can use? Is it a call for projects? Is it a request for information? Is it we pay for policy papers? I don't know the right approach, but I know that we want to be in that realm.
I highly appreciate these comments. And I think to add on that, there are industries there's good articles coming out. There's good research coming out that we need to start studying. There are absolutely some selected good consultants who are on the leading edge of following this. There might be some subscriptions, to your point, that we can follow. So I think it's an aggregate coming at it from various angles. But if we have the will, which is probably 80% of it, we can, with minimal risk in many situations, order some things and see and benchmark with other agencies and see if they work. Many of these environmental safety and sustainability products are safe. They're proven. They're good materials. They're reuse, recycle. All of those things are in play. So it's an exciting time too. And I would add that you have the right administration now, because before under Trump, honestly, respectfully, that's not going to happen. So we were able to turn that corner as well, that the political environment and the social economics of it also bode well for even these suppliers to now look at opportunities more positively. So when they start seeing opportunity and we can join together and create these programs like the one you're talking about, I think there's going to be more of those. I think we're going to get going. And once we get started, we're going to have some good momentum, because eventually suppliers want to get on track then, right? Let's be honest, it's good business.
Right. And Jean, I think
Supervisor Chavez,
I was just, excuse me, Jesney, just one more point, and then I'll come right to you. I think the other thing I was wondering is whether or not we had the capacity here to join with other procurement departments to do, for lack of a better word, like show and tells. Like I've wondered if we could just get into the convention center, have, 3 procurement officers from each entity listen to what's new in, hazardous waste abatement, what's new in, insect retardant, what's new in weed, because I will say that we have had people approach us and we literally have no place to send them. And anyway, kind of a beauty contest. Even if we could do that once a year would be great. Yeah. Sorry, Jesney, go ahead.
No, Supervisor, I was actually going to add to what you just said is actually there are these sustainable purchasing networks that exist, and we would participate in something like that where actually departments from across the country come together as well. And that is where you also have the consultants, or almost like people we look upon as the specialists, the industry specialists who are there as well. So it's both kind of a learning opportunity for staff, but also you're learning from what others are doing, and also kind of getting a little sneak peek into, okay, what's coming up, what's out there. So we would certainly, and that's why we're trying to put this saying, like, we need more of a programmatic approach so we can pull in all these elements as well. And as we are developing specifications for different product categories, like that's what goes into the research. You work with the technical consultants and the experts to identify what's kind of the latest out there, because you want to include that in your specifications from the get-go. So there's a lot of research and industry standards that go into that process as well.
That's a very good point.
And I think that I recognize that. I think that what I'm trying to say is that 2 things. One, I'm really glad you're going to do the research, because I feel like a lot of times we kind of cut and paste what we did 3 years out, and I totally get why. It's because in some industries it's slower. But I think the other is that I think we want to be part of pushing the new thing. That's really what I was hoping that where I think you're going to get anyway.
Well, to your point, can we pull a forum like that together? Absolutely.
And only if it's helpful. I mean, don't do it if it's not helpful. I'm just saying,
no, it could be
regionally, especially given where we sit, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we just finished a nice outreach with MBC, Minority Business Consortium, and VTA. And in there, that whole outreach had a sustainability component to it. So all those suppliers see that, and their subcontractors, et cetera. So I think it's a village that can be formed and really exciting.
Well, let me ask on that front another question, and this is really around your thoughts about how this promotes social equity, or what strategies specifically promote social equity.
I think there's so many companies out there that provide really unique core services, goods, services, equipment out there. And how do we draw that bridge to them to give them those opportunities? Because right now, when we look out there, we know that we're a little bit intimidating. We're process driven. And so the fact of the reality is, though, they are there. They have great creative ideas themselves. So I think one of the biggest opportunities we have is to get so many of these smaller firms, minority owned, LGBT, disabled veterans, all of them registered, get that outreach and allow them to start seeing these opportunities. Because once they can get in and start working with us, and seeing these opportunities, they get automated emails and they sign up for their commodities. That's how it works. They go through this thing called National Institute of Government Purchasing. It's called NIGP codes, and they sign up for those codes. Then they get these opportunities, and then they submit or they work with a prime. Most of them work with a general or a prime. And then you've got the JOC program. That's got a tremendous amount of job order contracting of small jobs that not only affect sustainability, but the entire community in Santa Clara for getting in and getting out for the $5,000, $10,000 kind of jobs. And if we put a focus on the sustainability side for that, we can gather some wins because some of these small providers, that's their niche. So we don't always have to, in some of these commodities, have to go for the smoking gun.
So let me just add two requests that I would be very interested in having come back for discussion. One is that I want us to take a look at whether or not we can consider place-based investments for some subset of our expenditures. And what I mean specifically is that if we look at I'm just using this as an example, but if we look at the census tracts that had the hardest hit from COVID, and we wanted to invest in those businesses first, they're local, they're close, they're small in general. What would our approach be to a place-based investment strategy with this procurement framework?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
And in part because I think as we think about the fact that if we're going to promote social equity, then part of what I think we need to be thinking about is how do investments come back into our hardest hit communities concretely, and what's the process that we can
I'm going to tell you a couple of things off the top of our head. One, we do have the local preference policy. That's going to help. That does give a percentage.
Right. And local's great. I'm very excited about that.
What I think we should consider as well is a sustainable policy. Sustainability policy, because if you give an incentive there, then that helps. And that's not out there yet very strong when you talk about leading edge. Sustainability policies are new and upcoming. I don't know of one right now, but I don't see why that couldn't prevail if we work with council and the right kind of players to give some incentives. That's totally doable.
Yeah, and I think that you're right. I think that's exactly the right direction. And then the other question is, can we, in our own local jurisdiction, designate high need regions that have where local preferences, it's kind of a local preference plus. And the reason I'm specifically asking about that is at a federal level, and at a state level, they have different tools for designating jurisdictions where a higher level of investment will be made, and or where they try to look for employees or not so much employers. But I think if we want to really get into the both sustainability and equity, we have to figure out how to invest directly in those communities outside of, and I want to be clear, outside of charity, right? Like outside of here's CalFresh. No, we're going to buy X amount of food. I mean, just let's think about Veggielution just as an example. We're going to invest in Veggielution providing resources to the jail as an example, where we have a locally grown food with primarily single head of household women in a training program. And, that's kind of where I'm hoping this policy gets us.
And I believe one area for that would be training and outreach. Because if you can get a program like that helps support it, then you can better target in on particular areas and outreach that and still be fair, objective, and transparent. Then you've got that education though, and you're targeting the right components versus this global, hey, come one, come all. If we can get particular programs that align with outreach in particular areas of expertise and inclusion and sustainability, then you're going to have a more targeted audience.
Yeah, and that's really what I would like to see come back here is a better understanding of how we stay on the cutting edge of kind of driving innovation. And second, what does place-based social equity really look like in our community? And by the way, this is amazing work. The only reason we're able to even ask these harder questions is you've already done so much of the so much. So thank you. And thanks, Chairperson, for indulging me there.
Thank you.
Thank you. So my question's actually maybe a little bit more broad. First of all, I just say great job on the report that Justine and Jean. And really, I mean, I think the idea of green, how people say that green is expensive, is costly, right? It really is a misconception at the end of the day. I just wanted to use myself as example. I mean, I drive electric car just like Cindy does, right? And I have this solar panel put on my roof a while back, along with some walls, the batteries, and with that type of lifestyle, I'm realizing that I am actually driving on the fuel generated from my roof the day before, right? So the sun charged up through my roof to these batteries, and when I get home at night, I charge it overnight. Next morning, the car I'm driving gets me to the county building and back, and errands and whatnot. It's all from my roof, right? And what it also means is not just the fuel, like no gas that I'm paying for. I have no oil change, no tune-ups, no transmission fluid. And when you add all that stuff up, it's a lot. And I was really pretty amazed to see that type of living. It sounds like the Jetsons, like people say, it's like the future, but like, wait, I've been doing this for the last 2 years now. And it's very doable, right? And then I think that the concept is really what we call the total cost of ownership, right? The TCO.
Yes.
Right, Gene? Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You come from supply chain. You got it. Yep.
Yeah. And so I'm just using that as one example of how, you really could you pay more upfront with all these infrastructure, but then now for years, I won't be paying any of this stuff. And of course,
it is. And to your point, it's got legs.
Yes.
And it's cascading in a positive way.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's something. So I'm just trying to think like how are we adding this environmental sustainability as being weighted in this procurement process, right? So that we definitely give a much more favorable in terms of choosing on these type of practices.
And I'm very confident to say 80% of it is our will, because we can figure it out. We've got opportunities out there, and if we keep ourselves driven and focused on it, of course we can make it happen. We'll put some focus on it. I think that's part of the effort in today's conversation. And honestly, your support is huge. So, we're not minimizing that either. Thank you, both of you, and the board, the rest of the board.
No, thank you, Gene. I think this one thing we're good at being Silicon Valley and being this board, especially very progressive, and we get the importance of green. And I remember having a conversation with a developer building the buildings. Initially, they were not too concerned. I mean, green wasn't a big thing. That was about like 15 years ago, and I pushed really hard with a LEED standard, like LEED Silver, LEED Gold, right?
Yep.
So at the end of the day, after the development of the projects, it turned out their costs went up by maybe 2.5%. But the best part is he likes to hold on to the buildings, so his operating costs per year thereafter, they were saving like 30% on operating costs.
Exactly. Exponential.
Right.
Yes.
So it's not just good for environment, it's good for the pocketbook.
Oh, it's incredible
green.
ROI.
Right.
Incredible
green is
ROI.
Not just the environment. So green, like the money, right? It's green.
Absolutely.
So saving all that. Yeah. So
the return on investments can be staggering. And it's all the more rewarding too, because you're going to make it and you're going to help the environment at the same time.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right. And now that's all the questions I have. And let me open the public hearing. Do you have any public who would like to speak?
Sure, we do have a couple requests to speak. The next speaker is Katie Edmond. I'm unmuting you. Please accept the unmute. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. Oh, she has dropped out. Okay, I'll go to the next speaker. Oh, nope, she's back. Katie, you have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine, Katie.
Perfect. Hi, my name is Katie Etman. I work with SPUR and I'm the Food and Agriculture Policy Manager. And I want to start with thanking you Jesney and Jean for your presentation. I also want to thank Supervisor Chavez and Semidian, who a while back brought forth the Food, Restaurant, Agriculture, and Health Access Initiative. And I want to send an extra thank you to Supervisor Chavez for all of her work around the Good Food Purchasing Program over the last year. And to that, I want to note that I'm incredibly excited by the inclusion of the Good Food Purchasing Program in this report out. SPUR and food-based organizations across the country see the Good Food Purchasing Program is really the gold standard for values-based procurement for food, because it covers not only environmental sustainability, but humane animal purchases, a valued workforce, making sure food is healthy and local. And all of that means that we can encompass a large swath of the priorities that are important to Santa Clara County. The GFPP exemplifies this process that you've outlined in the report out today by creating a baseline assessment, identifying areas for improvement, celebrating successes for the changes that are able to be made, and creating ongoing tracking. And because of this, I'm excited to see it implemented in Santa Clara County. I would also like to note that participating in the Good Food Purchasing Program comes with a regional and national network of support, with the idea that by aggregating demand for better food, we can drive improved supply so that we will have more access to the types of goods that we want to support in our county. And so with that, I want us to remember that we can build resiliency for the future. And I hope that we can implement this in a timely fashion and get those baseline assessments done, because some of those in our community with the most need are those that we reach at our hospitals and our correctional facilities. And we want to make sure that we equitably get healthy, local food, sustainable food to the people who need it most. So thank you for your continued efforts on this, and I look forward to seeing it at the full board.
The next speaker is Urbish Kumar Mehta. Please accept the unmute. You have 2 minutes to speak. The timer will start when you begin speaking.
Thank you very much. I wanted to thank again to the chairperson, vice chairperson, and as well as the county staff and Office of Sustainability. I wanted to mention specifically about what the term sustainability means at this particular point, whether that be a country, whether that be whether that be a state, whether that be a county, whether that be a city. In terms of a sustainability development goals, it is to ensure that whether that be a government organization affiliated to a country, state, county, or city within the specific jurisdiction applies the development goals where the enrichment of a life, betterment of a life, utilization of a better resources, education, health, as well as the efficiently producing the energy, and as well as making the available resources sustainable for the livelihood. That means the sustainability. It's whether that, let's take an example of a climate action, environment, making sure about the environment resources be available, saving on energy goals, providing the right set of water, the recyclable resources for the people to understand that the things like the day-to-day living things like a paper, plastic, those are recyclable and can be remade and can be reutilized. And that's also a way to regenerate the energy and as well as to save the energy as well, which produces the re-energizable and recycle, and as well as the products that makes the day-to-day living life sustainable and more efficient. That also saves the money and as well as more utilization of money. That's the forthcoming goal of a UNICEF, UNESCO, all international organization for the forthcoming 2025 as well as 2030 agenda. So certainly to keep it on top of the county's list. Thank you.
And that concludes our request to speak.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And Vice Chair Chavez, do I have a motion?
I would move approval of receipt of the report and enthusiastically thank Katie for all her good work, and enthusiastically ask that this come to the board with a report back to this committee on some of the follow-up questions that we asked.
Definitely second that. No further comments. Please vote.
Vice Chairperson Chavez.
Yes.
And Chairperson Lee.
Yes, as well.
Thank you.
That, I think, brings to our last item for today, which is item number 13, receiving report from the Office of County Executive relating to the County 2012 Measure A program through this past fiscal year to June 30th, 2021. And I believe we have staff presenting this today.
Yeah, this is Greg Etruria, County Budget Director.
Hello,
And
please.
so, in your packet is the annual report for the 2012 Measure A Sales Tax Program for the fiscal year that ended June 30th. The report describes the receipt and use of revenues over this past fiscal year, highlighting the activities and accomplishments, from the use of those revenues. Provides an outlook for the current fiscal year. And, looking forward, this revenue continues to provide a vital funding source for housing supportive services. The strategy of matching annual revenue growth with the growth of services provided to the new housing developments funded with the 2016 bond funds has been successful. And we are well positioned moving forward to continue this strategy. At this point, I think it's just a matter of if the committee has any questions of staff.
Okay. Supervisor Chavez, any questions for staff on this?
No, I just wanted to thank staff so much for this report because I think this really allows us to share with the public the investments that we're making with this sales tax. And I love how clear and accountable it is, and really appreciate that you carved out and explained in a little more detail some of the specific programs that are under this rubric. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chavez. So I do have a couple of questions on this one, Greg. The county generated, I guess, about 54.6 million tax revenues and only budget for about 48 for the fiscal year 2021 on this one. The excess 6.5 million, would that be roll over to next year's adopted budget?
Yeah, I think there's maybe two components of that. One is some fund balance from prior year that wasn't spent and is getting programmed for future use. And then the other part of that is the difference between what we estimated at the time of the budget and current estimates. And we always try to provide a true up, in the upcoming budget cycle for recommended uses.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Under the PCAP portion of the report, it's noted that the VHP is working with VMC to migrate the administrative responsibilities starting January 1st, potentially. Can you help us understand what are the responsibilities being shifted over there?
Actually, I don't know, and I don't know if we have anyone that's been invited as a panelist that can get into any more detail than what we have in the report.
Okay.
But we can follow up.
Okay, follow up. Sure.
And get back to you. Yeah.
All right. So on the 30.3 million that OSH was receiving in funding, approximately 6.3 went towards, quote, rental and housing assistance and client financial assistance and pay for success categories. And the other 24 million went towards the supporting operational growth categories. Could you help me understand what this category entails and the differences in funding between this category and the other categories?
Yeah, the main for the operational growth, that is the primary funding source for the Office of Supportive Housing Services that's not covered by other outside revenue sources. And so it is their main primary funding source for Office of Supportive Housing Services. And it has been, and with it tied to this sales tax revenue source, it provides a reliable, predictable funding source that's going to grow over time. So we're able to grow supportive housing services and provide even more services as more new projects come online. So it's basically the primary funding source for supportive services.
Right.
For a wide gamut of services that are provided there.
Okay. The report did highlight the concern of not being able to leverage the Medi-Cal if the client is eligible for VA. so that the programs earning less money for Medi-Cal funds than budgeted and would then need more Measure A funds than budgeted. Do you think we could get some clarity on these numbers?
Yeah, we can follow up with the specific department on that.
Probably behavioral health, right? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And let's see. And then I think there's a couple of questions we're going to request also on the off-agenda report. One is what are telemedicine and telephone visits associated with low payments from some of the payers? And then the second one is what's the example of feedback provided by the PFAP to improve the overall patient experience?
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. We can work with the department to follow up on those as well.
That would be great. Thank you so much. Great. And that's all the questions I have. And I go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anybody in public like to speak?
There are no requests to speak.
Okay. If that's the case, then I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Vice Chair Chavez.
I will, thank you. I will move to receive the report. Thanks staff for the detail and look forward to the answers to the questions raised by Supervisor Lee.
And I'll second that. And no further questions, please vote.
Vice Chairperson Chavez.
Yes.
And Chairperson Lee.
Yes, as well.
Thank you.
All right. So I think that brings us to the end of the agenda, isn't it? And I believe, let's see, our next meeting will be held on Tuesday, November 23rd at 2 p.m. And as my note says, will be held in the Board of Supervisors chambers. We will see if that's the case and to be noted at that point. But in any case, otherwise, we'll be by virtual teleconference like we are right now. All right. Have a good day, and thanks everybody for the awesome report. Thank you.
Otto.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Recording stopped.